more bad news for Jaron Boots Ennis. Team Rashidi Ellis joins Josh Kelly. They come out and pretty much agree that the offer being sent from Team Boots, Eddie Hearn, is a lowball offer. They're willing to negotiate, but they believe the fight is worth more. In this video, I'm going to break down everything that you need to know. Now, I just watched an interview from Mill City Boxing. Very good, insightful stuff that was discussed. It was Rashidi Ellis and his trainer who admit they did receive an offer to fight Jaron Boots Ennis, and the fight was a fight in Philly, and it was for $500K, I guess, right around $500K. They believe that Rashidi Ellis should be worth more money in that particular fight, right? He also goes on to say something that I really like. He says a lot of the casual fans are going to jump out the window basically and be like, oh, he's ducking. Rashidi ducks him. He's scared. He doesn't want to fight Boots. But he's like, let me put it to you real simple. If I have an item I'm selling for $50 and then you say, I'll give you $10 for it, and I say, no, that is too low, I'm not accepting $10. The price is $50. And then the guy comes back with a retort and says, yo, I'll double it. Cool. You doubled it, but you doubled it from a low ball offer. So even though you double it, now you go from 10 plus 10 or 10 times 2 is 20. That's still not the $50 that you were asking for, or even close to the $50. Half of 50 is 25. So you haven't even made it halfway to the asking price, right? And I like that. That was a great analogy for what he believes is going on. He was like, I get it. People are going to flip out and say he's ducking. Why don't you just take the fight? It's worth this and that. But you're lowballing us. And then you're saying we doubled the lowball offer. So yet and still, we're still not at the number where we want. And he says he believes his fighter Rashidi Ellis can beat Boots, and it's a good sellable fight, an East Coast fight. You got the Celtics, you got the 76ers, you got two East Coast guys, one from Boston and one from Philly, and you want us to come to Philly. Rashidi Ellis was like, you want us to come to Philly to fight where he doesn't have a belt. That's going to cost you. Yo, I swear I lose my head if it wasn't attached. I have to be the best in the business, and it's not even close. Notice almost everything that I say on my channel, if you really watch and pay attention, it presents itself. Maybe not as much in the beginning, but at some point, right? I feel like everything I said about Boots partnering with Eddie Hearn and all of that, you're now seeing what the big problem is, right? Here's a couple things. First of all, I had just made a video well before I had seen this interview, and the video has already been published. And it was about the name selection of Boots' potential opponents, right? And I didn't really like the list that I was hearing, right? The other thing in that video, I was talking about, this is the oldest trick in the book that Eddie Hearn always does. Send out multiple offers, peanuts, lowball offers to different people. And then when they don't accept the fight, then you play the blame game. And then you say, hey, we tried to make the fights with the better opponents, but they were all scared and they were all ducking. We have literally been here before with Boots, right? And this was with Mario Barrios. This was with Stanionis. This was with Brian Norman Jr. All of these names where it's like we really were trying real hard to get these fights, and then none of the fights happened. But then the Stanionis fight did happen. So what does that mean? Boots, what I think happened with Stanionis is Eddie Hearn tried the same tactics on Stanionis. They didn't like the offer. The fight didn't happen. But then Boots looked extremely bad because Turkey threw him under the bus and said he assured us he would move up and fight Virgil Ortiz, and then he backed out. So people were calling Jaron Ennis a duck for the Virgil Ortiz fallout because Virgil Ortiz at the time was ready to fight at 54. Boots said he's staying at 47. So then the pressure was on Eddie Hearn. He had to come up out the purse a bit more to get a unification, because if he didn't, his whole brand would be almost tarnished, because he didn't move up to fight Virgil Ortiz, so people were calling him a duck there. So if he stayed at 47 and fought another David Avocado, Karen Chukadzian, it wouldn't be justifiable. And really the only thing you could do is get him a champion and a unification. So I believe they came more correct since Stanionis a improved offer, and then that's how that fight happened. But now Boots is moving up in weight, and he's moving to 147, or from 147 to 154. And that's another thing. Rashidi Ellis is pretty much a 147-pound fighter. You want him to move up to 154. You're not a titleist. You don't have a belt anymore in a brand new division. You have no fights at that new division, and they got to fight on enemy territory. I'm from the Bay Area, man, and we got a saying, pay like you weigh. And this looks very bad for Boots, because here's the other angle. Turkey says he's willing to work with Boots, but I believe Turkey is willing to put up bread, but it's only for the fights that he wants, that he believes will improve and be a good look for Riyadh, Sella, and Ring. So he wants fights like Virgil Ortiz. Devin Haney said that he got an offer to fight Boots. He wants to make certain fights. He told Boots in an interview in Eddie Hearn, he's like, they want to do a tune-up. He said, I am not a charity, so we're not with that. You got to fight, at the pace we like. And that's, hey, you got to pay to play. You want that turkey bag, you got to do as he says, apparently, right? So now Eddie Hearn, without that turkey money, without Turkey like fronting the bill, we're back to the same politics where Eddie Hearn is like penny pinching and doesn't want to pay the opponent. Now, you could say, I'm saying hypothetically, let's say, oh man, Rashidi Ellis, he's terrified, he's afraid, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe that, but hypothetically, let's just say that's your argument. But then it doesn't explain Josh Kelly, who's a completely different person across the pond in a completely different geographical location. And he said the same thing about Eddie Hearn's offer. Not only him, his trainer. So now you have Rashidi Ellis and his trainer saying the same thing. So that doesn't make sense. You're not going to make me believe that all these fighters, since they've been boxing since their childhood, everybody's so afraid where no amount of money can get them in the ring. But then you can get David Avocado, who got knocked out stiff by Terrence Crawford. Somehow, some way, you can make it worth his while to fight a guy like Boots, who's a dangerous fight for him, right? So it wouldn't even make sense. It would make more sense if it was only one person, because then possibly you could just suggest that one person don't want no smoke. But when Josh Kelly is saying it, his trainer is saying it, Rashidi Ellis is saying it, Rashidi Ellis's trainer is saying it, then that's how you know we have a real problem. And same thing with Stanionis. He said it in the past, and then the fight was later made. Barrios didn't fight him, but he fought Pacquiao. You see what I'm saying? So this is a real bad look, and I'm very curious about the direction of Boots' career. Pushing 30, you called out Crawford. We know that's not likely to happen. Crawford's on to the Canelo fight, and you still don't have any real big mainstay name recognizable names on your resume. And you keep having fight fallouts and people who are saying you're lowballing them. And here's the other issue. To me, Josh Kelly and Rashidi Ellis fight at this current point is not even super desirable. So you can't even make fights like that. That's not even like the big boy fights for me, like Brian Norman, Devin Haney winner. So without Turkey, Eddie Hearn is struggling to get this done. And you guys, when I made videos, when Boots first signed to Eddie Hearn, I was like, I have serious questions about how this is gonna work. And you guys assured me, no, man, Ego, you're wrong, you're hating. Man, Eddie Hearn's a good choice for Boots. Okay, how's that good choice working now? He's not getting any top fights, and it's a struggle fest to fight fights that people aren't even asking for real. And the people are saying they're being lowballed. You know what I mean? And then, like I said before, Eddie Hearn has to keep putting Boots in the same market, Philly or New Jersey. He's in a small radius because he's not expanding his brand. He's not fighting the bigger and badder fights where you could take it to Vegas, take it to LA or somewhere else. So that is not how you build a star. Errol Spence didn't just sit there and fight in Texas. He fought abroad in the UK. He fought in New York and did great numbers around the same time as the Rio Olympics. He fought in LA versus Sean Porter, et cetera, et cetera. Deontay Wilder was a big star, and he wasn't just fighting in Alabama. But that's what the promoters do, especially with black fighters, when they don't know how to really market you. Top Rank does it, where they'll just stick Shakur in Newark, stick Crawford when they had him in Nebraska. Eddie Hearn's doing it now, sticking Boots in a certain mile radius, which is basically Philly, New Jersey, Atlantic City, that type of area, because he has no confidence that you could put him in Arizona or Texas or LA or Vegas and make money. So yeah, it's looking bad as far as I'm concerned.